Awesome, Megan. How you feeling?
I'm good.
Great.
I'm good. I'm ready to go.
Great. Yeah, let's get into it. So, yesterday you mentioned that you started taking some cold showers.
Mhm.
Just curious, what made you start getting into cold showers and how's it been?
Well, I listened to, I don't know if it was like a TikTok or a podcast, but somewhere I heard that if you have a lot of anxiety, cold showers are very beneficial. So I shower normally, and then I basically have just been starting to extend the shower time with like ice cold water at the end, um, which is crazy. It's crazy how you automatically go. I actually have to say to myself, you are not hurt, you're not in pain. It's just a shock to the system,
Hmm.
right? To like withstand that cold. And then I realized that that's also how I respond to like anything that causes me anxiety in my life. So it's kind of retraining me to go like, this is okay. You just need like a minute. It's not actually hurting you. You just have to like work through it.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. Totally. And how long have you been doing the cold showers for?
Probably like a
Great.
month now. I feel like it never gets any easier once it's like cold, but it is definitely like helping my like mental strength, and it's definitely helping with anxiety, which is great. But I would love to
Yeah.
start doing cold baths, like ice
Hmm.
baths, but I'm just not equipped to do that yet.
Yeah, totally. There's a great place in North Vancouver that I can recommend that. It's kind of like a sauna, and then like 10 minute sauna, and then you get into like an ice bath for like
Mm,
up to 30 seconds or for as long as you can. There's like a 6 minute board of like all these heroes who've done it for 6 minutes into like freezing cold.
yeah.
Which is incredible if you can do it. But then after that, then you go into like this relaxation zone and just kind of like re-regulate, and then you go back into the sauna and do it again. And so it's kind of yeah, just like a beautiful way to experience the cold plunge, but also relax, be with some friends, get back into the sauna, and do that again. Yeah, I've been doing cold showers myself for probably a couple of years now, just mostly ending every shower with the cold. And I remember when I first started, it was a lot of just kind of inner talk to even get it going, to
Yeah.
like kind of gear myself up to do it. And now it's simply just a matter of like turning it on and then lasting the length of time. And then what I found is different countries have different levels of cold, because the cold shower, I'm currently in Las Vegas for a conference, and it just doesn't get as cold as that Vancouver cold. Like Vancouver water is cold.
Hurts your bones.
It hurts your bones totally. So if you're doing cold showers in Vancouver, like yeah, you're experiencing a really cold shower. So yeah, anyway, I
Yeah.
just want to kick off with that. And I love that the benefits for you are, around kind of mindset uh and did you say it was helping you with kind of like anxiety as well, right? Just helping you work
Yeah,
through.
anxiety and regulating like your nervous system.
Mm,
It's just like I'm slowly starting to like look into that more. So I'm just trying to take like little steps at a time. So I find that that one's like really helping.
yeah, great. Awesome.
Yeah. But you said you were in Vegas. How's it going?
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I got here yesterday, and I'm here for WPPI, which is a annual conference that happens out here. I don't think it's happened for the last few years, and so far so good. I just got here yesterday afternoon, and being plant-based and vegan has been a challenge, just trying to find anything that's not like pizza and wings and sausages and stuff like that. But yeah, other than that, going to the trade floor was amazing. There's so many great brands and people here that I want to connect with, and some speakers. And um, when I first started as a wedding photographer, I was super into Jerry Gionis, and I'm still a fan. Definitely, he was speaking yesterday, and it's just so good. Like he's been a wedding photographer for 30 years, and he's still like at the top of his game in his genre or niche. And um, it's just so awesome to just see somebody just still so excited and creating the work that he wants to create. And his personal work right now is unbelievable. Just the things that he's doing. He lives in Vegas, and he's documenting like local performers and creating these incredible composites. If you get a chance to check them out, for anyone listening, and yeah, highly recommend checking out just what he's doing in that space. So Yeah, overall good. I'm here for another couple of days before I head to Seattle. But yeah, I really wanted to connect with you. You know, we've known each other for a few years now, or longer even, and um, absolutely adore your style. You have a very cinematic, high fashion, editorial style of photography. I know a lot of the people who are here live and who'll be watching this later, when they see your style, that it's very distinctive. And um, when planners or particular brides are looking for that style, like there's not many in Vancouver, at least, that I can point to that have that kind of style. So it's very niche, it's very unique, and it's beautiful. So what inspired you to shoot in that way, and what was it about growing up, or was there anything as you were growing up that made you move into that style and that direction of photography?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, well, when I started, I definitely started with a very like West Coast vibe. First, I was like bright and airy, and then like Jasmine Star was like my hero, which she's great. I'm not knocking it. That's how I started. Um, and then and then I think I went more like the West Coast vibe, and then I think what really triggered it for me was when I started working doing shoots for my best friend. So she owns Jane Ryan the collection. She designs like veils and bridal accessories.
Hmm.
And we started to get like very creative with our shoots. And I just realized like, oh, this is kind of like me dipping my toe into the water of how I want to shoot. Like I just started to realize it. And then more and more started to like build that into how I'm actually working on a wedding day. And it's still evolving. I feel like my style has changed many times over. But I think I finally like hit my stride where I'm like, okay, this is where I want to be. And now I'm trying to like finesse that.
Beautiful. And how long would you say from the start of, since you were shooting and inspired by Jasmine Star and other photographers, to get to where you are now? Like how long is that kind of time period?
Well, I think on the back end, I was doing it like I went to Langara for their photo program and I did like a lot of kind of like more like editorial creative stuff there for projects. And then in terms of it getting into like my wedding work, I would say it probably took a couple years.
Hmm.
As the type of bride and couple that I was photographing changed, they just kind of like went hand in hand and started progressing from there. I'd say in the last like 2 years, last year, like last year specifically, I was like really finding, I think, my client.
Great. And what was it about growing up, or how did you get into that style? What inspired you to shoot and eventually, like, really resonate with the style? Was there anything that you can point to kind of in your childhood, or what you're studying maybe?
Yeah, I think I'm like very heavily influenced by music. I'm very heavily influenced by certain music videos, by movies, obviously, and reading. I'm like a very kind of like romantic, creative mind. And I also am like a very nice person, but there's part of me that like really likes edge. So if things are too soft and they're too nice, I mean, there are moments where I adore that also, but I found that as I was like pouring more of that into my work, I was also like finding more of myself. And like, you watch like different movies and there's like moments where like you never forget it. Or like I remember Lana Del Rey's Blue Jeans music video. It's like black and white and they're like swimming in a pool and there's an alligator. And I was like, whoa, this is like speaking my language. And it's kind of stuff like that, like these little moments where you're like, oh, this is where I feel alive creating. This is what I want to keep creating. And I want to try to find people that that resonates with as well.
Hmm. Beautiful. So were you setting up kind of well, you mentioned working with a like a dress designer, and but were you
Yeah.
also setting up like styled shoots, things like that? Like what helped you create that work?
Yeah, I definitely did start off. I think that when I made a price jump a number of years ago, and when I did that, there was like a pretty big dip, and so I wanted to start creating content and photos that would resonate with who I wanted to work with. So I did a bunch of kind of like casting calls and created a bunch of shoots, and then I had to do that again. Um, and then also working with Katie, we would just like set up shop like in her house, and we would like put up like vinyl seamlesses and like shoot with flash and all of that behind the scenes. You start showing that and it starts resonating. And I think that we get to play a lot with client work because we're creative. But I think a lot of how we find ourselves is in setting up style shoots, is in, like things that people would walk into your house. Like I know that we set up stuff where if anybody walked into the house, they'd be like, what in the hell are you doing? Like, it looks terrible. But then they see the photos and they're like, oh, wait a minute. Like, I don't know how you got from here to like A to B, but now that I see it, like, I get what you were doing. Does that make sense?
100%. That was just yesterday, I mentioned Jerry earlier. He was showing a lot of his kind of behind the scenes as he was doing a shoot, and where he was and where the location was didn't look appealing at all.
Yeah.
But then that's the vision that he has. Like, once you see and are able to document that stuff and shoot it in with your unique eye and things like that, definitely it's like miles apart. And so I can see how definitely sharing that stuff is what helps you get the kind of clients that you want. Was there like a period whereby you were shooting and sharing that stuff, but you weren't attracting those sort of clients? Like, how were you then able to, they always say, shoot what you want to, what is it?
Know what you want to shoot.
Show what you want to shoot. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So, but sometimes we can't find what we want to shoot. So then we create ourselves, we do the style shoots. But then it's like, okay, now I've got it and I'm showing it. How do I get it in front of the people that this would appeal to? How did you find navigating that? Like actually getting in front?
I found that part of it okay. I think that for me, what happened when I started to do that was I had also made a huge price jump, because I started off like way too low. I mean, not everybody, but a lot of people do that. We undervalue ourselves. And so I did a big price jump. And so I think I was still getting lots of inquiries, but client referrals are a big part of what I do. And at that point I had like priced out of, I love these people, but I'd priced out of their friend groups and their like referral system. So I had to just like keep creating and keep like pushing until the two aligned. Right. So the content that I was creating was like what connected me with the people that were willing to pay for my work. So awesome. I think that's where the gap came from. Yeah.
So, okay. So what you mentioned, like pricing yourself out of kind of like your existing referral group, you increase your pricing. How did you, I imagine that can be like quite a challenging time as well, where you're getting the inquiries, you are available, but they're not the type of client anymore, maybe that you want to shoot, or your style has evolved and now you're in a different price bracket. How did you navigate the mindset, the kind of that inner voice maybe that's saying, oh, like, should I go back to shooting that? Like, I need to pay the bills. How did you navigate the challenges of having that quiet period?
Like a complete head case. I was like, I am the queen, which again is maybe like a creative just like way of being, but I'm the queen of like second guessing myself. Every time I shoot, I doubt it. Every time I make a price jump, I doubt it. I like kick myself in the teeth. And I think for me, what actually really helped was having people around me, which I wish I could say that I was like strong in and of myself, but I wasn't actually. Like, I had people around me that were like, no, these prices are good. Stay here. You're fine. Just breathe. And I think when you start to hear that being said to you versus your own self-doubt, you start to actually like absorb it. So I had a great support system, people that were confident in my skill and myself and just kept reassuring me. And then I had to also learn to reassure myself that like, you're good. Like, you go above and beyond. The way that you work is something different, is like a different way of being. So like, just have confidence. But I mean, that internal struggle is like always there, and it's a real bitch. Am I allowed to swear? Sorry.
Yes, you can.
It's awful.
Yeah, no, 100%. And so that's great that you had like the support system. Did that come from people in the industry, friends? Like, are there certain people that you can like point to as like being really supportive, and what was their kind of story, or not story, but what field were they in, so to speak? Were they in the industry or?
Yeah, well, my best friend Katie. She's the one that owns Jane Ryan the collection. She's a designer. She's like very she's very confident. She knows what she's got to offer, and so she's very good at bringing that out in other people and like helping you to recognize that in yourself. And then yeah, definitely industry members, friends that I had in industry that were like, no, this is good, like stay here. And then family. Yeah, I don't know, I think all you need are like a few very strong, what am I trying to say, all you need
People
is
who
like a
believe in you.
few people. Yeah, you need a few
Mm,
people that believe in you. It's like that Lady Gaga thing where she says the same thing like 8 different times, but what she says is true. You need like a few people to believe in you and to keep, you know, like investing in you like that, and then it gives you confidence, and then it starts to grow.
mm,
um I think about that thing a lot where they're like, you are often a product of like who you spend time with. So if you have like a few good people in your life, you know what I mean, they have like such a profound effect on you. I think that goes for also like your industry and who you work with. If you surround yourself with people that are like better than you,
mm.
you know, and it's not in every different way, but they excel at certain things that you don't. It starts to like pull you up, you know, because they inspire you
Definitely.
to
Yeah,
work
definitely.
harder and better. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
I
do
love
that.
that. Yeah, being around people who are going after the things that you want, being around people who are encouraging and that you can encourage as well. I feel like that's super key as well. Like we all, like for those who are here live, have people or friends or colleagues that are going through self-doubt or are feeling not that confident today, or struggling with something in life or with their creativity or in work, and just having those gentle nudges or those gentle words of encouragement are so huge. They go a
Totally.
long way. But then having those people in your corner that you can turn to, um, and when they say those things, you believe what they say. Like that's so key, to be around people that will encourage you, but not coming from a space of just saying it to make you feel better, but actually believing in you. So when you find those people, hold them close and send it back as well. I feel like is super key. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's beautiful that you have that, and continue to have that. So, okay, so price jumps, having people in your corner, then you consistently are now gaining those type of clients, and you're in that space that people dream of being in, where you're getting the type of clients that you want, and they're paying the kind of prices that you are worthy of. So when you're in that space, how have you found navigating that, and any key things that you've done to maintain that consistency?
Yeah, I think the first thing is share what you want to shoot is a big, it's like a, it's always in my mind. I don't post. I think I posted like 34 times in 2022 to Instagram. Like I don't focus there, but when I did post, I wanted to make sure that it was like what I wanted to continue to bring in. Um, I think it's important to recognize that you're not always going to get, sometimes I get to weddings and I like love the people and I'm like, okay, this isn't, we maybe, I don't know how, what am I trying to say? You don't always get your ideal client in terms of like aesthetics or whatever every time. We're doing our best to navigate and connect with people that we think would be a good fit. But I think it's important either way to show up and just like understand their vision. Like we want to create what we want to create. That's all great and dandy. But I think that part of consistently serving a client at a higher price point is also understanding their vision. This is what I'm trying to get around to. Understanding their vision and being able to like shape yourself a little bit in a different capacity to like serve them best.
Mm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the clients that you have now, I imagine when they see your work, that closely relates to their vision. So how do your client conversations go, or how are you making sure that you're connecting with their vision?
Yeah, so it's always in the consult. I send out like a very detailed pricing guide. So I want them to like read through that first. They get my vibe, I get theirs. Um, and then in the consult, we're like talking about their lives together, and I'm like listening for specific things that will like, we'll touch on different things, and that will tell me right away if I can provide what they're looking for or not. Um, and you just want to get to know them, and they'll send me inspo and stuff like that, and you start to understand, okay, like, yes, this is something where we're a good match. But it's not always, I don't know, like last year I shot 34 weddings, and I loved every single client. They were unreal. Was every single wedding like very editorial? No, some of them were like at a farm, and they were wearing like a tulle dress, and it was like beautiful, but like completely different from what I post on Instagram. That's more what I'm trying to say, is that my aesthetic may be one thing, but I don't always get clients that like operate in that world, but they still like what I do. So I think that by getting to know them, I still serve them like beautifully, because I know them, I get what they like, and I still want to like create to like the best of my ability for them. But in a consult now, I am like, for example, I don't want to say hate, I really dislike shooting in like very green spaces. So now if I have a consult where the client's like, well, you really want to be in the middle of a forest, I'm going to right then say, love that. I totally get why you enjoy it. I don't like generally shoot in those spaces because of this, that, and the other reason. I would more likely take you like somewhere like this. And then they know right away, okay, so this is what she does. And I know right away, this is what they like. And so if you're really set on that for your portrait location, because it has a ripple effect, because where I shoot and the colors I shoot with, the environment I shoot in is like affects my editing style. And then that goes through the end product, and what I do with skin tone, what I do with like, every element of my edit. So if I'm taking a client into like a situation where I don't shoot, or where I feel like it's not going to bring out like the best of my skill, it's not like serving anybody.
Yeah, totally. So yeah, definitely. So what are those dream locations? What works for your style and your aesthetic? If somebody wanted to shoot with like a high fashion cinematic style, we want to avoid forests and greenery and that kind of thing. So where do you, what's like one or two places that you love to take your couples?
I wish I could be in California and Arizona, or in Europe, take me to Italy. But we don't have a lot of that here. I think I tend to go I love urban spaces. I love setting up my own backdrops. I'm always gonna look for like beiges, not gray, but like cement, muted colors. Really also is the lighting too. So I let the light lead a lot of the time, which is why like I've had clients leave me reviews where they're like, she took us to an alley and we were like, what the heck? But then the photos are like incredible, but it's because I care most about what the light's doing. So yeah, for me, basically it's like staying away from where the light's bouncing off of like a terrible color. If you're standing on the grass and you're like surrounded by green, it's bouncing up into the face, and I don't love that. So I'm always going to go for like a neutral. I also obviously don't shoot like a ton of like huge landscapes. I will sometimes if the opportunity like arises, but I'm very focused on like the couple themselves, what their connection looks like, what their body's doing. So in a sense, the background takes like the back seat a little bit, and the light's leading, but yeah, I'm still trying to be selective. And it also depends on what they're wearing. So I'm going to choose locations that like really benefit what they're wearing, what their wedding party is wearing. I hate putting stuff together that clashes. I wanted to try to connect, but also I get it wrong sometimes, right? Like sometimes you're in the moment, you do stuff, and later you're like, why did I do that? Like it's always going to happen. It's always going to be a thing that exists. Like we can't live in a perfect world, and I'm a perfectionist, and that drives me crazy. But part of growing as like an artist and a business owner is realizing that like you're an imperfect person and you're not going to get it right every time.
Totally. And there is no perfection.
Yeah.
It's very, that's a whole topic on its own. But you mentioned, okay, what the couple is wearing, what the bridal party is wearing, things like that. How much in your consults do you get to get into the nitty gritty of that? Because some of the time they may not know. How much does that weigh into whether this is an ideal client for yourself or not?
It depends on what they have ready. Sometimes they're like, "Can I send you my Pinterest board?" And I'm like, "Yeah, do it."
Mm,
I think it's more, I'll ask who they're working with sometimes, not because I really care, but it's going to tell me a little bit about their style. So if they're working with like a certain planner or a certain florist, that's going to speak to like the aesthetic they're drawn to.
mm,
Um, Also the way that they talk about my work, which sounds conceited, but it's not actually how I mean that. Like they'll tell me, photos that they're drawn to or wedding days that they're drawn to, or like a sample gallery I sent where they really liked bits and pieces. And so the things that they're bringing up are going to tell me, you know,
mm.
I don't know. I used to say like it's like picking locations for clients. Sometimes people don't realize what they want, and you have to like kind of draw it out of them and then like say it back to them, and then they go, "Oh wait, that is it." Because like, going back to the forest analogy, like I have shot weddings where it was like in the middle of a forest, and they sent me inspo photos that were like on a beach, and I had to like figure out like what do you actually like about this photo, because you're not getting married anywhere near a beach. So let's like get down to it. And then you find out, oh, it's the emotion or it's the lighting or this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
And so I think a little bit of that translates into consultations where they're talking and you have to try to like, yeah, just kind of decipher like, okay, like, are we a good fit? Like, am I going to be able to serve you the best? Or is there somebody else who I know that you're going to be like cracking with? Like, it's going to
Mm.
be wicked. Right. And so that's really
Yes.
hard too, to say that like, I don't know if I'm the best fit, but like be also very excited that like this person is like talk to them, right?
Yeah, definitely, definitely. And then you're helping another photographer out, and that photographer, if they get the sort of client that loves
Mhm.
urban, but they always shoot in the forest, then they're going to refer you back as well, which is amazing. And I love what you said about, speaking to a client about your own work and having conversations around that. Because one, you obviously get to then check that they have actually looked at your work and they're both into it and they understand kind of like how you shoot, but also you get to really find out what's important to them. And all of the photos, while they may be in a forest, it might just be the intimacy between the couple and the connection between the couple or the movement or things like that. And that's really key. And do you, I know for me personally, like when I first started off shooting, and maybe this was similar for you as well, you just want to shoot weddings and you just want to kind of get your feet wet and just be a wedding photographer for a season or two. And anyone who wants to book you, amazing. Like, and then within that, you'll find your own style and find your own voice. And then as you get more and more into it, you start sharing the kind of things that you want to book, and then you're finding your voice more and more. And I feel where you're at now is like quite uh, you're at a beautiful place where you know your voice, and because of the reps and the amount of years that you've been shooting, you've got to a place where a consult is not just, hey, book me for your wedding. It's more like, yes, book me for your wedding, but also uh why would I be a good fit, or why are you a good fit, the couple a good fit for me? And so
Yeah.
you're interviewing kind of both ways, and that's a beautiful position to be in, and that comes with time and confidence. um with 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 the posing and with the kind of couples that you get, how are you navigating the kind of look and the feel that you get, because it's a high fashion editorial feel, and most couples aren't natural models, but yet you have a
Yeah.
way of creating such a beautiful look where they might as well be models, and then you're getting into magazines and on blogs and things like that. So how does one how do you do that? How do you get into your couples into that frame of mind? Walk us through a bit
Yeah.
of your process.
Well, there's a few things I do. The first is that I try to like really always start off with saying like, okay, when I have my photo taken, I'm an actual nightmare. I'm so uncomfortable. I get like instantly angry and frustrated because I just like hate it. Even right now, being on the Zoom call, my skin is crawling. It's just like I know what it's like to be so painfully anxious on the other side of the camera. And that is always in the back of my head. So the first thing I always do is, not always, at some point in the process, I will tell them, like, let's create space for how abnormal this is in your everyday life. Like, you don't have somebody follow you around with the camera 24/7. And it's uncomfortable when that starts happening for like 10 hours on one specific day. Um, so what I'll say is, like, leave space for that. Like, it's awkward and it can be uncomfortable, and just like, let's just leave room for the reality of that. Like, this like person is just like in your space. And I think that as soon as people like realize that you realize that, I think it helps a little bit. I also like to talk about, like, I call it awkward gold, but I love to talk about just how nervous we get, and like how to focus that energy on each other. And if you're uncomfortable and you want to act like a weirdo, like, do it. I'm gonna bring that into something that like works. And I always find that working with couples who are the most uncomfortable in front of the camera is like, that's like my sweet spot. If I'm working with somebody who like thinks they're an Instagram model, maybe they are, but you get people that think they are, and then I have to like break bad habits where they're like, this is my good side. And I'm like, no, it's not your good side, but you don't know that because nobody's ever told you that, right? Like, I would rather work with people that don't have experience and they're like a little bit uncomfortable, because like I can use that energy.
Mm.
And then I would say, in terms of like the whole scene and then how that goes into posing, it's always like just like a little whiff in like the recesses of my mind. Like, I'll see something, and you can ask people that work with me. I have like a chaotic energy. I don't think with the client, but behind the scenes, I can like be chaotic because my brain is like ding 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 all the time. Because I'll see something and then I have to just like leave it be for a second and let it like form. But it's like a process to get from that little like whatever light bulb moment to like what the end product is. So I'll put them in the space and I'll say to them, like, there's something here, I just don't know what it is quite yet, so we're gonna like get to it. And then you're slowly like working them through it. And like, obviously shooting stuff like anything to do with fashion or like branding for like Katie or anything I did in school taught me how to work with models. I also think it's just something I naturally do, but I start moving from top of the head down to the toes. So I will physically move fingers, I will touch them, and I'm like constantly pumping their tires also. Nobody wants to have their photo taken and it be dead silent. And if you tell people, holy shit, you look amazing, and you like pump them up, and I'm not just saying it to say it, like, like I will specifically compliment, your boobs look great today. Like, I'm a woman, I can say it, like, girl, you look good. Or like, your butt looks amazing. Or like, your arms look so good, or your hair, your makeup. Like, people need encouragement. And if you are pumping their tires and you're doing it in a genuine way, it like brings out the best of them. So it's kind of like a crescendo effect. So I don't know if that's even the right way to say it, but I would say domino effect. So it's like a whiff of an idea, and then I'll put them in the space, and then I'm working through the posing. And sometimes that means I gotta like stop. Sometimes it just doesn't work, right? And you just move on. And I'll say, okay, I got a different idea. Let's go over here. But if it's working, you're like slowly shifting them top to bottom until it's like right there. And then you step back. And then I don't always do this because it's a wedding day. And again, I'm an imperfect person, but you want to kind of like walk around it, because you might set it up from one angle and then you might go somewhere else and be like, holy shit. And sometimes I'll see a second shooter angle and I'll be like, that's what I wanted. And I'm so glad you were there, because that's where I was trying to get to, but I just couldn't get there all the way. So it's definitely like a process. But in terms of posing, top to bottom, head, toes, fingers, angling, you know, curves from women, it's great. Have the men be like strong. Men get very uncomfortable in photos. So you also want to encourage them. You also want to pump their tires, give them space for how awkward it is, and like get them to like stand in their own, you know, like space. Like, but it's a process. Sorry, that was like a runaway train.
Oh, that was great, Megan. And flashbacks to when I was able to associate shoot for you last summer, and just kind of associate as in like second shooting. I was it's just like a short elopement, but just you literally did all of those things, and I could see you had ideas forming and how you'd work with a couple, and for sure, just like so um, encouraging, like you said, pumping their tires, but in the most beautiful way, where you could feel them growing in confidence and then working with you. And I remember this one point where you had the couple, you kind of pose them up, and then there was some movement, and it was great, but maybe you hadn't quite nailed it, or they hadn't quite nailed it, but it was there, and you didn't just kind of like, oh, let's move on to the next thing. You like redid it and worked with
Yeah.
them, and again encouraged them, and then I'm sure you nailed it in that as well, right? Like it's beautiful doing it a couple of times, but I love seeing that, and just yeah, how animated you were, how fun you were, and just the jokes that you cracked as well. Like it was a different side of Meghan, definitely, like on the wedding day, that I was able to see, and that was a beautiful thing to be a part of. So yeah, thanks for bringing me along, but also just totally like everything Meghan just said there is like 100% true. And having witnessed it, yeah, it's really really awesome to see. So okay, so we talked about posing the bride, posing the groom, getting them to a space of comfort. Now, maybe even going back to that day, you kind of get into this flow state where then you're like, okay, anything I do now is game on. So we had some great questions kind of in the chat. Is there anything as well from that you already have in mind? Like, do you prepare anything? Do you go in with a vision for that couple, with their Pinterest board, with the aesthetics and what their vision is for the day? Like, do you have concepts in mind?
I wouldn't say I have specific posing concepts in mind sometimes, but I location scout for every wedding because I want to see what the light's doing. So I'll know kind of where I want to kind of like play, but nothing is really concrete. It is in the sense that it's like, I know we're going to start here. I'm going to give myself like 20 minutes here because I can go forever. So I have to like set mental like timelines for myself, but 20 minutes here, 20 minutes here, 20 minutes here. I know the wedding party is going to be at like spot B. That's kind of the extent of it. Sometimes there will be specific things that I want, like, especially if I like we did a shoot one time, which was not bridal, but where I had the bride lay down by the water. And then I realized like she was on a fountain, and I was like, why the hell don't I do this on a wedding day? Because they'll do it, not every bride, but they'll do it, and then they'll get something that like nobody else has gotten, because a lot of people won't ask that and they won't do it. The bride won't do it. So no, I don't usually have like specifics, but I have like a general game plan. I hate getting into the wedding day and being like, where are we gonna go? Because it just wastes time. Like I already want to know where we're going, but what we're actually gonna do, it's not always set in stone.
Okay, perfect. So a few other questions kind of from the chat that I wanted to ask you right now, before we kind of switch gears. Is there a professional, or this is from Shia, is there a professional or like creative goal as it relates to kind of your couples and weddings this year that you've set for yourself that you'd like to accomplish in 2023?
Yeah, slow down. Take on less and slow down. I want to like I'm trying to really like hone in on my couple. I know there are specific venues that I don't shoot at anymore. And that makes me sound like an asshole, and I know it. But I know the spaces where I am at my creative best, and I want to protect those dates for spaces like that, because that's where I'm going to be able to perform the best for that client. So I'm risking it this year a little bit because I'm slowing down bookings and I'm trying to save dates for clients that like I really vibe with, like the aesthetic is like on point, and I love the locations, and they're like open to doing different things. And that might bite me in the ass, but I really want to do that. And then the goal is, if kind of having that creative like lockdown leaves dates open, then I want to like create within those gaps for myself, because again, that's where I start to like jump ahead. Like I start to dial it in terms of my vision. Beautiful. Does that answer that question?
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like Michael Scott, when I can't remember what the line is, but he's like, sometimes I just start talking and I don't know where I'm going. I feel a little bit like that, whatever that line is.
You're doing great. You're doing great, Megan. And yeah, Warren had yeah, just you're doing amazing. And she also had a question for you as well. If well, I guess it was similar around, yeah, any wedding goals that you're really excited for this year. Is there anything else that you're super excited for to accomplish in 2023 after the crazy few years that we've had? Like, just to lay a bit of the context, you know, it's just going into early March 2023. We've had COVID, we've had all the cancellations, postponements. Um, Going into even last year, I feel like, I don't know if you're in the same place, but it feels like all of those weddings are kind of behind us now. Maybe there's like one or two that are still kind of hanging around, but overall that's done, and it's like a really refreshed kind of season. So um, maybe a goal or a vision that you have outside of weddings.
Yeah, outside of weddings, I would like to travel this year. I have like a couple places in mind. I didn't leave space for that for the last 3 years. Well, during the pandemic, it was like a complete another shit show, and I felt like I wanted to like crawl into a hole and die. And then you don't give yourself space to like recover from that because you're shooting like a billion weddings in 2022. So I think this is like a recovery year for me. I also have like crazy, I don't talk about it a lot, but I definitely have burnout. And I can like see it in like the way that I'm responding to emails, the things that I'm doing. So I think maybe a better answer to that is just like taking time for myself. Like I just like gutted my house and I repainted everything, freshly painted walls, because I never left time for that over the last 3 years. And I want to do that. And I want to create. I want to like get together with my friends and like do styled shoots and like make stuff that makes me feel alive, and hopefully people resonate with it. And if they don't, oh well, I like it.
Yeah, totally, 100%. So I'm all about, you know, creating a vision, having goals. I was very lucky to work with you a couple of years ago. I think it was, yeah, 2021, even 2022. And we still connect quite regularly with the Architect Lifestyle System. For anyone that doesn't know that, I run a course. It's 6 weeks now, in an intimate setting with photographers, helping them get really clear on their vision, helping them design goals and execute on those goals with, you know, really effective habits, actions, tools, and systems to help them, you know, really grow their business so that they can attract the kind of clients that they want to work with and also live the kind of life that they want to live. And so, Megan, back then it was 8 weeks long, and then we continue for a couple of bonus weeks as well. And I appreciate you being a part of that. What was it that led you to want to join and be a part of the Architect Lifestyle System?
I think that at that point I was like growing and I realized that like this is about 10 seconds away from getting like out of hand. And I am in certain ways I'm like very like put my head down and like get the work done. Like I'm a workhorse, but then in certain areas I just like suck and I don't know how to do it. And it was just like never a skill set that I developed. So things like goal setting, vision boarding, like creating out like a map for like how you're gonna get there is like not in my wheelhouse. I just kind of like go and then it's just like luckily happens somehow. So I think that that really helped me at the time. It was wicked to take it at the time, but I was so in like a post-pandemic headspace getting through edits. I don't think I even like fully appreciated it until like the last like 3 months. So editing started to like finally die down. I was getting to the end of the queue and I was like, what do you want like your life to look like? And I was like, oh yeah, like I can just like I just like did this thing. Oh my god, this sounds like so salesy, but it's not. This is like actually what like went through my brain. I was like, oh yeah, I did this course and I have all of these skills to like plan this out and make sure this year is like what I want it to be. And so I just like started sitting down and doing it. And it's fucking crazy. Like the shit you get done, the how you feel like more in control. And I think that's ultimately what it is. I felt like my business was controlling me and I wanted to be in control of it and have a life. And, I wanted to like, I did this because I wanted to make a life for myself that was what I wanted it to be. And I think that like all of the goal setting, all of like the planning, the vision boarding, everything, like you got to do it. Otherwise, you're just like floating in the abyss and nothing ever actually gets done. Does
Totally.
that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. You know, it's the course is designed based on my kind of own experiences and kind of going into drifting mode, as I like to call it, and then into a mode of like actually architecting and being in control and knowing, okay, this is where I'm heading towards. Like I have a vision of where it is I want to go, and now it's about like putting in those pieces to actually getting there and designing my life in a way that I'm actually doing the things that will help me get there, as opposed to just like wishing for them or hoping that they will happen. And you know, my dad growing up would always say, you know, don't expect things to happen, like struggle and make them happen. I would change that to put in the effort and make them happen. You know, it's really about designing and then doing the things that will help you get there. So yeah, thanks Meghan for being a part of it. It was a joy working with you and continuing to work with you as well. I wanted to ask you a little bit around some of your inspirations again, just kind of going back there. Is there like a favorite photographer that you had kind of growing up, or that you still have now, or photographers that inspire you?
Yeah. Well, one is Richard Avedon, Govima and the Elephants. I don't know if that's how you say your name, but that, I don't know if you know what photo I'm talking about, but it's like the girl in like couture and she's with elephants and it's a black and white film photo. Anyways, I remember seeing that photo in like 2015 and being like, oh, which is kind of actually hilarious because now I love black and white. I love high fashion and I love it in like weird environments. So yeah, I feel like that is something that like really speaks to me. I love I'm drawing a blank now because I'm nervous, but is it Greg Williams? Greg Williamson? I know his name, but my brain right now cannot do it. Anyways, he shoots a lot of like celebrity events. So he's responsible for like a ton of like the amazing candid black and white photos you see of people like behind the scenes, like as they're getting ready for the Oscars, the Met Gala, which I don't really like give a shit about actors, but his photography is like, it's just so cool. And it's like what I would like my candids at weddings to look like. Like I would love to get to the point where like, I don't know, they look like so, they're just beautiful. And it's just like weird. There's like a group photo and they're just like beautiful photos. Or like Zendaya will be like walking down the hall and she just like stops and leans and he just like pops a photo with flash. And it's like, his setup is so simple and it's so clean. And the photos are just like amazing. Like they all tell a story. They're beautiful. So he's a big one.
Great. And going into black and white photography, how have you kind of honed in your style there? Is it from looking from these photographers? You have like a unique way of editing. Share a little bit around your process with black and white imagery.
Yeah, that's a good question. It just kind of evolved over time. I was like I said, I went through the whole gamut of like, I want to look really bright and airy, and then I want to be like the West Coast grainy vibe, and none of those like fit. So I realized that I had to kind of just like slowly build it out for myself. And it's just trial and error, like, you know, and also I have a thing in my head where I want all of the black and white edits to like look the same. I want them to be cohesive, but I'm slowly stepping away from that because I think there's something about like changing the edit a little bit for the moment. Like I generally love like very crisp blacks and like beautiful creamy whites, like that are bright, but sometimes like a muddy photo that's in black and white like actually works like better for that specific situation. So I think it's just trial and error. I built myself a preset. That's always like my first step. And then I just like go from there and I adjust based on like what's best for the image itself. I also like, I do my own editing. I've started using Imagine AI. My brain, I can't remember details right now. Sorry.
Oh, good. I've started. Yeah, Imogen AI.
Thank you. I've started using it as like the first step, but I find that it's not like super. It's good. It like starts the process for me, but I always go through like every single photo and change like 700 things about it, and then black and whites I pull out and I edit those all by myself. But yeah, just like start with a preset and just like keep tweaking it until it's like where you want it, because and also it's the shooting too. You gotta know how to shoot it so that it's less work in post, right?
Yeah, totally. Are you saying yeah, with your editing and your preset, talking more around yeah, shooting it so that it's less work later? Are you talking about the kind of light and the kind of locations that you're in with those certain tones and light?
Yeah.
So great. Yeah. Thanks, Megan, for, sharing a lot around kind of your process, your journey as to how you've got to where you are, and excited to hear, how 2023 goes for you, and in life as well as work. Um, is there anything that you'd like to kind of share with us in terms of mindset around Instagram? Because I kind of wanted to end a little bit around that, because there's a lot of things that you've been through to get to where you are, and having really honed in your style, going through those periods where things are quiet, you're sharing what you want to ultimately shoot. But Instagram causes a lot of anxiety for photographers, for a lot of people just generally. How have you navigated that when you're, specifically, I would say, when you're sharing the kind of work that you love, but things are quiet and you're not really getting the inquiries that you want? Well, that's kind of one side that I want to kind of talk about, but just generally Instagram as a whole, how have you navigated that in terms of your mental health?
I used to be like a really big struggle for me. I'm a Leo, and yet I'm like very private. I like hate. I don't know. I don't love social media. I don't like. I'll watch stuff. I'm definitely, but I don't love like putting myself out there necessarily. Um, I also just feel like I have so many other things going on that battling with Instagram, TikTok, all that shit, it never really, it always felt like it was draining me more than it was bringing me energy. And I like listened to, I don't know, some podcast or something where they were like, if it's not bringing you joy, then don't worry about it. So I kind of took on that mentality, and I've been lucky enough where despite not posting much on Instagram, I get like a shit ton of leads from Instagram, and also I get lots of word of mouth. So I've never really had to like grind at that to bring in clientele. So I think that now if I like it, I post it. Like I'll hear a song and I'll be like, yeah, I know what I want to do with that. Like I'm going to make a reel. And other people might not get it, and that's okay. I don't care. I'm like more posting it like for myself, and this is like what I want to create, and this is like my vibe, and I'll just like kind of like put little bits and pieces out there, and then if people see it and they connect with it, that's great. But
Mm.
I don't focus on it, and I don't spend like a ton of time in that space creating on it.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. It's kind of, Instagram really is like a website, essentially, where you get to share your portfolio, and curate a body of work, put it out there for your ideal client, hopefully to stumble across. You can create reels and do stories and things like that, but essentially you get to share yourself and genuinely be you. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from how you're sharing
Yeah.
like things that would be on your website, because you share a lot of inspiration as well. Like you'll share like a veil, or
Yeah.
some shoes, or like a necklace, or things that you resonate with, and you'll just simply share them, what you love about it. And I love that, because it's really good branding, because it's consistent and it's on point, and the type of client that's looking at it will resonate with it too. And if they don't, then they're not the ideal client. And it's not necessarily a numbers game. It's not about trying to get likes and comments and views and reshares. It's like, hey, putting out a signal of, this is me, this is what I love. And then the people that connect with it will connect with you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is something that can really help with one's like mental health, and just the excitement around being on a social media platform, because you're genuinely consistently sharing yourself, and you're comfortable with that.
Yeah. Cause I mean, I don't know, here's the thing. Social media is not real. You could have 50,000 followers and be making zero money. I don't care about the fake stuff. I care about like what's happening. Not that it's fake. Maybe that sounds rude. I care more about having a thriving business and quietly doing my thing and knowing that it's working and that I'm making money. Then I care about that more than I care about like the optics on social media. Um, because it just doesn't matter. Like it it doesn't mean anything. And I know that there is something to be said for like social like validation when clients are like looking at you. I think there are other ways to do that. And if you love social media, then like friggin' go for it. Like this is just me speaking from my experience and my perspective on it. Some people are like so natural at it and they love it and they like think it's so fun, and it's just not that way for me. And somehow it's been working and that's been okay. And I'm not to say I won't set goals for myself where I'm like, I read some blog that's like, you got to post 10 times a week and you got to do like 7 reels. And I'll like text my best friend and be like, I'm going to do this. And she just like laughs at me because she's like, no, you're not. And I'm like, that's true. But you know, I get these like little things where I'm like, I could do this. And then I'm like, nah, I can't. It's just, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't. But then also you had said posting and resharing stuff. I think, especially in Canada, especially in the West Coast, people don't know. I don't know. I think the brides are like, I like this vibe. I don't know where to go to get this stuff. Right. And we do because we connect with other vendors. We follow blogs. You know, we're like members on different like bridal things and they post stuff. And so I think that by resharing it, you're like putting it in their hands where they're like, oh shit, that's what I wanted. Like, you know, you don't always know how to find stuff. People don't always know how to find this stuff that's like, you know, what they want for their day. And so I think that if you just like share little things as you see them and you like them, it like helps them. Because Vancouver's very like set and like specific, you know, they get their stuff from the same place, from the same websites and stuff, because that's what's put in front of them. And it's hard to like know who you can trust outside of that. So by sharing little things, you're just like making it a little bit easier for your couples.
Beautiful. Yeah, I love that, Megan. And that can work for a lot of photographers in all kinds of genres and all kinds of towns, and just continuing to share yourself and staying true to your aesthetic and your excitement will keep you energized and in a place creatively that you're enjoying and thriving in. So yeah, Megan, thanks so much for sharing all that you have today. Excited to connect with you again soon. For anyone that's here live, hold on, because we're going to continue with a few more specific questions here for Megan. But for anyone who's on YouTube, you can check out this video, other videos with other creatives like Erin Fraser, Adonia Jaja, Don Bringas, and more. But for now, thank you so much, everyone, for being here, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.